Hey folks, Jason here. Welcome to Timberfalls, home for CNC creators like you. In today's video, we're going to go over how to do a two-sided carving. I'm going to start a new model. Now it's important that I start this from the center or use the center as my reference point. When we align this for our two-sided carving, it's going to be important that we start from the center. So when we go out to the shop, I will explain why and how we're going to keep this aligned when we flip it over. Now, it's also very important that we get our size of material correct. We want to try to be as accurate as possible when measuring our piece of material. Now, I know that mine is 12 inches tall and it was 11.625 or 11 5/8 wide. And I'm using inches, and of course, we'll always have our resolution all the way up. And now we're just going to import our 3D model. Now to do a two-sided carving, you have to use a model that has two sides. So you're going to be importing something that has two sides or is a full 3D model, like something that you might use for a 3D printer. Just going to import our relief. Okay, and then when I import my model, this particular model came in standing up. I'm just going to hit this little material back here so we can kind of see. Now these are all the sizes down here. We're going to have to sort of rotate this around. Now, right now, the model, if I move this little window aside, my model is standing up tall. So I need to rotate it around. These three boxes in the middle are going to allow us to rotate this around. Now the first thing we're going to do is rotate this 90 degrees on that x-axis, and now we're going to do 90 degrees on the y-axis, and that flipped it over. Now what I want to do is flip this all the way over, so let's go 180 degrees. And now what I want to do is start to size this down to our material. So we're going to go to our long edge and we're going to put in 12, the y-axis, and I'll just hit the center button so we can put this in. Now my mask had a very specific size. It's going to be 8.5 inches tall. And I want to uncheck these boxes. I'm going to make it 6.5 inches wide. And we're just going to be under 3 inches, 2.9 inches tall. Now we're doing the 2.9 so that it will fit inside of our material. Now it does look slightly off. So let's check this out. Let's roll this over. And indeed our mask is not perfectly centered, or it's not perfectly aligned to the material. Well, let's put the center button and we'll get it down. So it looks like we're going to have to do a little bit of moving or rotating. The first thing it needs to go is the left and right, which is the y-axis. Let's try some really small degrees, like 2 degrees. And you can see we're rolling it around there. I need to come some more. Let's go another 2 degrees. And we're getting it pretty even. It needs to roll down some. So let's use 2 degrees on the x-axis. That went the wrong way. We're going to use a negative. Negative 2 degrees. Let's go -4. Okay, let's do -2 some more. All I'm trying to do is flatten this out where it's sitting a lot more level. Let's hit our center button. Now let's zoom in here. This is touching and this is not. So it needs to roll this way just a little bit. Let's try 1 degree. We're past it here and we were over here. So let's go back and I'm going to put a -0.5 degree and let's center it. We're almost down here. We're touching over here. So let's do half of that. Let's go -0.2. Center. We're touching here. We're not touching here. Let's go 1 degree. 0.1. 0.1. Center. Touching here and we're touching here. So that's how I know that this mask from left to right is about as centered as we can get it. You can kind of turn it this way. Now what I'm going to do is try to get this a little bit flatter by making this touch. So we're just going to adjust this a little bit. Let's go with a 0.01. I didn't even see it move. Let's try that again. 0.01. Let's try 0.5. Let's go just a little bit more. 0.2. Another 0.2. And let's hit our center button. So the back of the mask is touching and the two sides of the mask are touching. So I feel like that I've got this pretty centered. It's sitting on about as flat a plane as I can get it. And so we'll carve one side and then we'll be carving the other side to match. Okay, and then once I've got this exactly where I want it, we need to go back over here and make sure that our sizes are correct. This needs to be 2.9, 8.5, and 6.5. Make sure we're still touching. Now everything's the correct size and we're all lined out for our model. Guys, I'm just holding my middle mouse button down to roll this around in case you were wondering how I was doing that. Now what I want to do is paste this down. Now we're going to leave this box open. We're going to go up here and we're going to hit Save As. So I'm going to go to File, Save As, and we want to title this Mask Front. We'll save that. And now this is Mask Front 1. Now I'm going to leave all this open. I don't want to change anything just yet. Now notice when I pasted that down that all of the undercut stuff moved down and we made a solid model out of it. Okay, now what we want to do before we do anything is move right up here to our Reset Relief, and we're going to completely erase the relief that we pasted down. So now that we've completely erased it, we've got our mask floating again. Now basically all I want to do is flip this over 180 degrees. So we're going to go right here to our Y-axis and we're going to do a 180 and we're going to hit Apply. And that's going to flip it over exactly in the exact same spot that we had the other side. So it's at the exact height and the exact thickness as the other side. Now I'm just going to paste that down, and now we're going to go up here to File, Save As, and I want to title this one Mask Back. So Mask Back. So now I have a file Mask Back and Mask Front, and I can close this. And now I have my two files. I have the inside of this mask that we're going to carve, and then I have the outside of the mask that we're going to carve. And this is set up for a very thick, 3-inch thick piece of material. I'm going to be using some extended reach bits, and we've got some different things set up to make this work correctly. I'll be showing you how we mark the two sides when we get out to the CNC machine. And now we're ready to set up our toolpath thing for both of these sides. Generally, the rule for CNC is inside out. You always want to carve from the inside outwards, mainly for stability issues. If you cut the inside first, you have the outside of your material to hold your project in. If you start cutting from the outside in, you're cutting away all of that support as you're moving towards the middle, and it's a lot less stable. So it's always a good idea to carve from inside out. And so for that reason, we're going to do the back side or the inside of this mask first. Then we're going to do the other side or toolpath the other side second. Okay, in order to toolpath this, we need a vector that goes around our project. So we need to create those vectors. We're going to use our vector create, and we're going to go right here to relief boundary and get our relief boundary tool. And I don't want to use a height range, and we do want to create smooth boundaries. So I'm just going to create those boundaries, and it's going to give me a vector around the eyes, the mouth, and the border here. And that's what we're going to need. Now, if I were to carve this from this outer vector in, and then I flip this over and carved from the outer vector on the other side, it would only be held in by whatever material is between this outer vector and the sidewall. So it would probably cut it out if we tried to do it that way. So what we need to do is offset our border vector inwards so that we're carving all of this stuff except a little bit of material that we're going to leave around the edge of the mask to actually hold this side in. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to use my offset vector tool, which is right here, and I'm just going to grab this line and I'm going to pull it in a little bit, and I'm just going to come in a little bit, about that far, and this is going to leave a little bit of space between this vector and this vector of material that we're not going to carve. Okay, the first thing I want to do is I want to create pockets for these eyes. So I'm going to highlight all three of these. We're going to go to our toolpaths, and I'm just going to use an area clearance. I'm adding an extended reach bit. We are going to change the speed of this pretty slow, 40 inches a minute. The reason that I'm going so slow is because of how long these bits are. This is a 4-inch bit with a 3-inch cutting area. There's a lot of deflection on these long bits, and so you have to go really slow in order to keep them from breaking. We're also going to slow down our RPMs because of that. Our finished depth, we want to go all the way down. We're going to go down the full 3 inches using offset starting from the inside. I am going to use ramping. We need to set up our safe Z and home Z. My safe Z is going to be 0.1. And because this is a really thick piece of material and I have to have my router moved up, we can't have very much Z height. So I'm just going to be using a 0.5 or a half inch for my home Z. It's a really low, but that's because of how thick this piece of material is. We want to cut this from the top and leave anything excess at the bottom. Anything down here is going to help hold this in when we cut it out from the other side. This is also going to add thickness between our 2 layers. If you make your model smaller than your material, you can add more material down here and actually make whatever you're carving thicker. So this is a good way to blend the 2 sides to know which one's going to be thicker. We're just adding 0.1 material that's going to be in between the 2. Pressing OK, and now I'm ready to do those area clearance. And we're just going to cut those eyes and mouth out because I don't want to have to do that when I carve the rest of it. Okay, and now we're ready to go to our machine relief toolpath. We're going to be using our selected vectors, and I'm going to pick that vector that we offset towards the inside and the eye vectors because we don't want to cut the eyes. We've already cut those parts. And for finishing options, we're just going to be using a 1/4 inch ball nose. And for roughing, we're going to be using our extended reach 1/4 inch bit. Again, I'm going to slow this down some and change the RPMs for this extended reach. My 1/4 inch ball nose is also an extended reach bit, but since we're not cutting that much material, it can go a bit faster. I want to do this in offset, starting from the inside. We'll let it cut both directions. I'm going to add ramping, and our safe Z and home Z is already set up, along with our material thickness. Okay, and then we just need to calculate that. And then that's going to complete our inside or back side of our material. Once we finish with this tool pathing, we'll be flipping it over to start cutting on the front side or the reverse side. We're going to go out to the shop and set this cut up and get this going, and then we'll come back and do the front side. I'll show you how to set all that up, and we'll tool path that after we get done with the back side. All right, I'll see you in the shop. Okay guys, we're out here at the shop and I have my piece of material set. We've finished measuring it and it's 12 inches by 11 5/8. I'm using this brass indexer. Basically, this just has measurements on it and you can set it. So what I'm going to do is set this at 6 inches and then I'll just make a mark in the middle. And I'll do it from both sides. That's going to be my center mark. We're going to do the same thing for the left and right, which is about 5.82. And then now I found my center. I'll put a link in the description below where I got this. Now that I have my center marked, the way we're going to find and mark our project for flipping it over, we want to put it in a pretty good stable spot. And I've got a bit chucked up now. This is my extended reach. This is that 4-inch bit with a 3-inch cutter. This is what we're going to be using to carve this piece. Now what I want to do is check, make sure that my bit is going to make it all the way down. If I take this all the way down in the collet, I should be able to and see that my collet is just going to barely, as soon as this gets down, my collet is at the top of this material. Now I'm just using an end mill and I'm just going to be eyeballing the center of the bit into my middle spot. I'm just taking my wood and I'm just going to center it up as best as possible here. But I'm going to lock in with some other pieces of wood, some cawls around the side of it. Just applying a little pressure, just going around the outside. Now I just put those 4 pieces of wood around it so that it can't move. And that's all I'm going to do, guys. We're not going to lock in anymore. That's all the pressure I'm putting on it. I've just got it locked in 4 pieces. It can't move. Now here's the trick. I'm going to zero this out on the controller. Let's come over here to the controller. Hopefully you guys can see this. We're just going to zero this out. I'm not going to set my Z height yet. We'll do that shortly. We know that the material is 12 inches from front to back. So what I want to do is move the machine down half of that. So let's come back over here. So I'm just going to move the machine exactly 6 inches. That's 6 inches. So I know that 6 inches is halfway. It's splitting the material here, half the bit. Now all we're going to do is turn the spindle on, and I'm going to cut down all the way to the base of the material. We're going to go slow. You could use a drill mill for this. I'm just going to use this end mill because it's what I have. That's the thickness. Generally, you don't want to try to drill straight down with just a straight end mill because you can cause a fire that way. But if you go slow, this will work. Now we want to go down right to where we get down to that base, so we got to be pretty careful when we get down here to this bottom. Just a little bit more. That's 2.96. Go just a little more. Maybe one more. Alright, and that's 3.68 on the controller. That's all the way through the bottom. Now I'm just going to raise it back up. I'm going to go to the origin position. And now I'm going to move 6 inches the other direction. There's 6 inches. And we're just going to go down and do the same thing. Alright, now I'm going to shut it down. Now basically guys, what I've done is I have a center point that I've started on. And I use that axis to come down and make a mark here at 6 inches and here at 6 inches. Now it's halfway off the wood. Basically when we get to the other side, what we're going to do is move our bit down to 6 inches from center. Put it all the way down. We'll flip our block over and realign it to that half of the bit. Then we'll lift it up, move it to the other end, put the bit down, and align that end with that bit. As long as these 3 points remain in alignment on both sides, this thing's going to come out every time. And basically I'm going to try and leave this top and this bottom. I may have to loosen these up when we flip it over to get it perfect, but you'll see when we get to the other side how this will all work. Now we're ready to start this side. We just need to zero this off of the material to set our Z0, which we haven't done yet. So I can do that with a probe, or I can do this manually. We're this close, we might as well go down manually, which I'm just going to inch it down right there. Okay, now we're ready to start. Let's go get our G-code loaded in and we'll start this project. We've got the bottom side or the inside of this finished.
Now that the back side's done, we're ready to toolpath out the front side. Now the first thing we need to do is create our vectors, and we're going to need to create vectors around the mouth and eyes and then around the outside. Again, we're just going to go back up here to Vector, Create, and we're going to use our Relief Boundary tool.
I'm just going to press the create boundaries, and that's going to give us all of the vectors that we need. I'm cutting this out in a 3-inch piece of material, and I'm going to use a 1/16 finishing bit. Now, that bit is only 3 inches long total, with an 1.5 inch cutting area. So if I use that bit, and when it tries to go down to cut these spots down on the side, because the bit's so shallow, the bit actually would hit the material that is around the edge. So what we need to do is create a relief area or a small cutout spot where our collet is allowed to go down around the outside of this mask. So to do that, what we're going to do is create an offset from the edge of our mask. I'm just going to go to my offset tool, and we're going to go outwards, and I'm just going to use a measurement. We're going to go a 1/2 inch. Let's make it a little more than a 1/2 inch. Let's go 0.6. I'm just going to get rid of this one. I want to make sure I have plenty of room. So the first toolpath we're actually going to cut is this area clearance. And I'm just going to clear between this line and this line. And this is going to give us a recess area that's going to go down into our material. That's going to allow us a relief for the collet for when we want to carve deep. I'm just going to use my area clearance over here. We're going to go ahead and cut this one down 1 inch. Yeah, we're going to use the extended reach end mill, mainly because that way I don't have to change bits when I go from this to the roughing. Just going to slow this down a bit. Offset from the inside. Ramping. Set up our safe Z and home Z. 0.1 for safe Z. 0.5 for our home Z. Our material is at 3 inches. And again, we're cutting this from the top. We're leaving the excess at the bottom. For the two-sided carve, whatever we leave in the bottom is going to add to whatever the thickness of our overall mask is, or whatever we're cutting out. So I'm just going to press OK, and we'll calculate that. That's going to give us our relief for area down so that we have room for our collet to be able to move down and cut these areas. This is still outside the bottom of this part of the mask, so we're not even getting down to that. It's not going to affect it because it's outside of the mask itself. Okay, and then our next toolpath is going to be our 3D machine relief. We're going to be using selected vector, and we don't want to carve inside the eyes or the mouth because we cleared those out on the other side using our area clearance when we did the back side. So those parts will already be cut out, and we don't want our bit plunging down to the base of the material when it went over the inside of these. So that's kind of why we're excluding all of that. I think we're just going to do the 1/16 finishing bit, and we're going to be using that extended reach end mill for our roughing bit. Starting from the inside, we'll let it cut both directions. I have ramping still on. Now, as I turn this to the side, you guys can see that there's a lot of stuff where the finishing bit and the roughing bit is not going to get along this outside edge. These are flat parts that just are straight down from where the vector is down to the base. So this is all straight sidewall here. So we will still have a lot of material holding this part in. And that's because we're using this inside vector. Okay, and then finally, all we need to do is create a profile toolpath to cut this out. And we're going to go outside. We do not need sharp corners. We are going to finish depth at 3 inches. Now, because we cut down our relief 1 inch, we can add a start depth of 1 inch because of that area clearance that we put in. So there won't be any material around here down to 1 inch. We're going to be using the extended reach, the 4-inch bit that I have, and we're going to slow this down. And we're also going to add some bridges, 1/4 inch by 1/4 inch. I'm going to hit the edit bridges button so I can put them where I want them. Put one here, 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 and here. And we just calculate. Oops, we had our eyes included, and I didn't really want that. So I'm just going to click off of this and reselect my vector and calculate again. And that's going to cut out our two-sided project. Okay, we're going to go back out to the shop. I'll show you guys how to flip the project over, and we'll go from there. Okay, guys, we're back out at the shop. We've got the bottom side or the inside of this finished. And we're ready to flip it around. Again, we're just using the inside of these grooves right here. So what I'm going to do, we're going to move our spindle back to its origin position. And we need to change out the bits real quick. Let me put in that extended reach bit, the same bit that we used to make the two marks. Give her a good tightening. Now we got a 0 off of our 0 plane here, right there. Let's move it back over to 0. Okay, and now I'm gonna move it the 6 inches, okay? And we're just gonna go down with the bit. We're gonna go right down in that groove that we made. Okay, and now we're just going to undo the screws that I have around the outside of this. Now my piece of material is just sitting here. All but this side is loose. So all we're going to do is take this thing. We're going to flip it over. I'm going to pull this back. I'm going to put that in that same groove that I just had. This is on the other side. We're going to need to move this one too. We make sure our channel is clean because I think I've got some material like stuck right here in the end of it. I'm just going to take something, a brush, and clean that out real quick. I'm basically, guys, just using a wire brush, and I'm just brushing this out. Do it on both sides. Then all I'm going to do is bring the spindle up, move it to the other end. So we're going to bring the spindle up because we're on this side exactly. Then we're just going to go to the other end. First, let's go to the middle section. That's the middle. Now let's go to the 6 inches. There's my 6 inches. And I'm slowly going to start bringing this down. Now, all I'm going to do is align this so that it goes straight down in there and creates my other pinhole. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to lock this in on one side. I'm pretty sure we're aligned. We're just going to hold our weight down on the material. And I'm just going to lock this in. Now before I get the other sides locked in, I'm just going to come back and check this side. So we're going to go up. Gotta watch your tools. And that's our 6. Let's go back down. And so I'm right in the same spot. So I know this is all good. And we're good to lock this down. So I'm carefully just going to make sure everything's cleared out. And, oops, I moved it. That's why you got to put your weight on it. Now I'm going to check that other side since it moved. I'm kind of pulling back against it. Now sometimes if you use the same holes, it'll try and track in the same holes. So if you're using a piece of caul like this, you may have to change drill holes. So we're back in that same spot. I just want to make sure. I'm going to check again. We're just going to check our other pin alignment. Ever so slightly off. Just make sure. Bring that pin down. When I moved it earlier, that kind of messed me up, but sometimes you just have to reset. Let's go down with that pin. Now, alternatively, guys, you could have put this hole down inside of here and just drilled down in here. You didn't have to use it off the end. The only reason I like doing it this way is because when you're punching down with this end mill, it has a relief area to move. And so this actually, as long as these three things are in alignment and we get all these three things to align, in this direction, everything is going to be in alignment. So our left and right. Our forward and back is almost set by where this hitting up against this. So, I mean, we've got a little bit of movement, but that much movement is not going to change the actual outcome of the piece. So let's just check it one more time. Let me lock this in. and we're in alignment. So now I'm just ready to lock the whole thing down. We're gonna go over to the other side, make sure it's all tight, lock it in. Yeah, that's solid as a rock. Now I'm just gonna double check. That's right on. And that one's right on. So we're right in there. So we're ready to start carving this other side. We're gonna put on our dust boot. And this is ready to be started. Okay guys, I'll be back when we get done with these cuts. Okay folks, right out of the machine, I haven't done any kind of sanding or modifying in any way. It's still rough. You can see there's just a little bit here that's going to need to be trimmed off. But it's pretty thin, so that's going to be able to be sanded. But the mouth and eyes and everything meet up really nicely. There'll be some sanding along the edges and stuff right along the edge here. Yeah, pretty happy with that. And that's how you get a two-sided carve.
Guys, if you found this tutorial helpful, give us a thumbs up. Consider subscribing to the channel and share this with someone. I'd like to give a big thanks to all of our Timberfalls Elite members. You guys keep the bit spinning and we really appreciate your support. If you're interested in becoming a Timberfalls Elite, check out the link below or our website at timberfalls.us. Thanks guys.